Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video and another episode of my retro journey. I'm Pixel Paul. Thanks for pressing play once again. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, if you can hit that subscription button, that would be very much appreciated. So thank you for joining me again. Like I said, this is another episode of my retro journey. This is essentially a series of videos where I look back through the consoles that I've had throughout my gaming life, starting from the very start right up to the next console, which was the Nintendo 64. As you can see, I've got it up and running right in front of us here. Yep, that's my original machine from what, 1996. I bought that console. So yeah, if you've not seen some of the other videos in this series, there is a playlist on my channel page, so be sure to check them out. But for this video, we're very much concentrating on the N64. So like I say, I bought the N64 back in, I think it was March 1996. And it's a bit of a special console for me because it was the very first games console that I bought with my own money. So I was working at that point. I'd left school. I think I was at college. I had a part-time job, and I was sort of saving up for all sorts of things. But one of the things I was saving up for was an N64. At that point, I was, like I say, I was working. I was working on a Saturday job at Woolworths, and I knew at the time that they weren't getting any in stock. So I actually got mine pre-ordered from, I think it was Comet, which was part of the same group as Woolworths. I partly did that because I knew I'd get staff discount on that as well. I used to get 20 or 10% off it. So when I put my pre-order down, I knew that I was going to get a bit of a bargain, really, because I was going to get it cheaper than most other people. So yeah, I remember the launch morning quite well. I'd managed to get the pre-order in. They said there was only 10 pre-orders, because that's all they were getting in. They were getting 10 consoles in. So I pre-ordered mine, and yep, early that morning in March 1996, stood outside with 10 other people waiting to go into the store. My dad took me, I remember that. We went in, I picked up my N64, and there it is. That is the original box for my original console. Um, and I've had it ever since. So yeah, I was really blown away actually, because a few sort of weeks or months before, I'd played a bit of a demo cabinet in a HMV, I think in Manchester, and obviously at that point, we were all the same. We'd been playing Super Nintendo games, we'd been playing Mega Drive games, um, and when I first saw this game in action, I mean, we'd seen pictures of it. When you actually first saw it in action, I was completely blown away by Mario 64. Using the controller as well, it was just unbelievable sort of time, really, to sort of leap forward from 16-bit days to the N64 and then the PlayStation. But yeah, at that point, Mario 64 was just an incredible game, and it still is an incredible game, to be fair. So yeah, I picked this up. It cost £249, I think it was, back in the day. Obviously, I got a bit discount off that as well. And if I remember right, we in the UK had quite a decent price drop on these not long after release. I think it was only, I want to say, 2 months after it came out. It dropped down by quite a significant amount. I can't remember if it went down to 199 or about 229. I think it was 229. So it came down quite a bit. And I was so annoyed by that because obviously I'd used my own money, I'd saved up. I was so annoyed that, 2 months down the road that they'd knocked a bit of money off it. So I actually wrote to Nintendo UK a bit of a letter of complaint, which isn't like me. I don't normally do that sort of thing, but back then I did. And it was only a couple of weeks later, I actually got a letter back apologising for it. And they sent me that as a freebie and a sort of an apology. And I've still got that as well, a black controller. I've still got that in there somewhere, and it still works. But yeah, that was a freebie from Nintendo UK. So thank you very much, Nintendo UK. So onto the games. What I normally do is take you through the games that I've got for my collection. For this collection, it is a relatively small amount of games. I don't have a huge amount of N64 games. I did sell a lot from my original collection, which is a shame because obviously, and we all know now, prices of these games are pretty high in general. But I'd still have a fair sort of few games. What I'll do is first, obviously, looking at Mario 64, and this is the game that I got with my console, my original console. This is the original copy that I've got. really good condition still. Complete, obviously, as well. Let's have a quick look at Mario 64 in action, just very quickly. If I can find the volume, whack that up a bit. Let's have a quick look at Mario 64. Let's start a new game. So it doesn't seem that long ago getting this N64 and hooking it up to the big TV downstairs and playing it for the first time. I don't think I got to play it that long on that morning because I had to go to work because it was a Saturday job, and I'm sure it came out on the Saturday. So yeah, I had a quick go on it in the morning, went to work, and then came back and set about the journey into Mario 64. I think we all remember this intro. Just such an iconic game, Mario 64. And I think the good thing about this game is as well is that it took everything from the 2D platformer Mario games and somehow sort of launched it into 3D completely, almost effortlessly. Everything that was in the 2D sort of games is kind of in there, from the sandlands, lava lands, water levels as well. Everything that was in the 2D games is more or less in this game as well. So yeah, it's just a perfect 3D platform game, really. The one thing that they did get right with this game as well, which a lot of other sort of 3D platformer games tended to struggle with, was the camera. And with those buttons, the yellow buttons on the controller, that really helped with the sort of motion of the camera and the control of the camera. So that was one of the big parts of Mario 64. Familiar Castle Lobby. We'll have a quick look in the first level. I love that effect that they used there. That was one of the big sort of selling points of the N64. The fact that they were almost like comparing those graphics to sort of the T1000 in Terminator 2, weren't they, at one point? We'll have a quick scoot around the first level. We'll get to the top of the mountain. We're going to move on. Chain jump there. First time you saw that when you were doing this level as well. It's such a big sort of character there. Again, not like anything you'd really seen in a Mario game before. Character of that sort of size, perhaps. And this first level is quite a decent sort of introduction into using the actual analog stick. There's a lot of sort of twists and turns. Whoops, I've not played this for a little bit. Just confess. For my money, I still think this is probably the best 3D Mario game. Um, Mario obviously gave it a good run for its money. It is a fantastic game on the Nintendo Switch, obviously. Um, but I still think this is still the best. Can I remember how to beat this boss? I think you go behind him, don't you? Yeah. Amazing how you never forget these things, isn't it? Really. I think he turns quicker once you've done it once, perhaps. But again, it's kind of an intro to using the analog stick because you just couldn't have done this with a D-pad, obviously. I'm sure there's an easier way of doing this. Slow down a bit now. Easy, really. Yeah, awesome game. Still holds up these days. Um, and now I've played it a little bit there, I'm actually itching to play a little bit more of it, but I won't do. I want to show you a few more of the games in the collection, so I'm just going to turn the sound off and let that do what it's doing. So what I'll do is first is show you the unboxed games that I've got, so the cartridge only games. I've only got a few, but it's quite a decent time to be buying some of these unboxed games because actually unboxed, just cartridge only games are actually quite not cheap, but compared to the box games, if you just want to play the game, then yeah, unboxed cartridge only option is quite sort of cheap relatively. So I've got a few. I'll take you through them. So I've got, here we go. Try and show you the interesting one. So 1080 snowboarding, because I do like a snowboarding game. 1080 snowboarding. Star Wars Rogue Squadron, which is a fantastic game, excellent game. The first of the Rogue Squadron games. Obviously, there was another. There was it called the Battle for Naboo on the N64 as well, and then this was followed up with a couple of games on the GameCube as well. But yeah, fantastic game that one. Actually, this was my third N64 game. I'll show you the second N64 game in a second. But yeah, this was the third one that I got, and this is Shadows of the Empire, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, I should say. This was one of the launch titles in the UK. There was this, Mario, and I think Pilot Wings was another launch title over here. I don't think it was Wave Race. I'm pretty sure it was Pilot Wings in this Mario. Yeah, a lot of people absolutely love this game. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think some of it is brilliant. I think some of it is terrible. There's a couple of standout levels, which are really good. The opening Battle of Hoth is really good. Um, then you have a level like the speeder bike chase through Mos Eisley, and that is just terrible. It's just uncontrollable. Um, but yeah, it's still a decent game. A remaster might be good. If someone could remaster that game, I think they'd probably have something there. But yeah, it's a decent game overall. Decent one. And then we've got Turok Dinosaur Hunter. Now, this is obviously, like I say, this is just an unboxed version of it. I did have a copy of this boxed, and it was actually one of, when I first bought this, this was the second game I bought. This was actually one of the most expensive games I'd ever bought because at the time it was $69.99. I think in general most of the games were either $39.99 or $49.99, but this came out and I'm sure it was $69.99. Plus the fact that you had to have, it was the first game you had to have a memory pack for, so you had to buy a memory pack as well. And I remember buying this in game, and at the same time they had in there a version of Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo. I had the choice really, and obviously Secret of Mana was slightly cheaper, and I had to sort of choose really which one I wanted to get. But obviously N64 was the new console. I wanted Chorok, so I went with that. I do kind of regret that in a way, but another one of those gaming regrets. But yeah, Chorok Dinosaur Hunter is still a decent game. In fact, I'm going to whack that in now, I think. Let's give that a quick go. There have been remasters of Chorok, obviously. I think there's a Switch version of it. There was two other N64 games. Is that going to work? The people are going to hate me for doing this, but sorry. Let's see if that's going to work. It is going to work. It is going to work. Yeah, let's have a quick look at Chorok. But yeah, there was another two Chorok games on the N64, and then there was Chorok Evolution, which sort of came out GameCube era, PlayStation 2 era. And then there was quite an underrated Chorok game on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. But I think I still like this one the best. This is probably still my favourite. As far as first person shooters go on consoles, this was probably the go to game for a long time up until one of the other games in my collection came out. I always have to remember how to play this because you move with the directional D-pad or buttons there, and you look around with that stick. So slightly different to like GoldenEye. Yeah, the controls are a little bit funky in this game. Love these sound effects. Some amazing weaponry in the Turok games as well. It was surprisingly sort of gory as well for a Nintendo game. Very atmospheric. The music is amazing in this game. Everybody remembers this sort of music. A lot of people use it when they're posting about Turok on Instagram, so you hear this music a lot on there. Quite dramatic death noises as well. Also, although the controls are a little bit cumbersome, you soon get back into the swing of it, he says, getting hit by a raptor. The only sort of thing that really used to wind me up about this game was the jumping sections. So you jump using one of the shoulder buttons, um, and yeah, it never quite works. You never feel like you're fully confident in making some of the jumps. Um, got you. It's the one thing that just used to really annoy me. The one thing that you also get with Chorok as well, which you perhaps didn't get in some of the other earlier N64 games. Well, they didn't sort of use it. Was the sort of heavy use of fogging for the sort of draw distances, so you can see it a little bit there. It's a bit more sort of noticeable in some of the more open levels or open areas. Trying to remember where the shotgun is in this level. I don't know if I've missed it or not. It's been a while since I played this. Sounds like someone's reappearing there. Might even be going back the way I came. Oh no. Yeah, there's a zone bit there, isn't there? Warp zone type thing. There's that special effect that they used in Mario 64. Right. Not sure how a shotgun does that, but there you go. Nice. Dramatic dinosaur death there. But yeah, you can see there how foggy, or how much they sort of use the fog, the distance in some of the levels. And these are the jumping bits, which I used to hate. I think on that note, I might actually call. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to make that jump. We'll turn that one off for now then. Let's just leave it there for a second. So yeah, the last unboxed game that I've got is a bit of an obscure one. This one, it's called Body Harvest. Um, Again, this is a game that really uses heavily actually that sort of fog to cover the scenery in the distance. Um, but it's a decent game actually. Body Harvest. It's a little bit sort of budget looking in a way, but it's essentially kind of like a uh, don't know, one man army against a bunch of ants, alien invader type things. A bit like the Earth Defense Force games, possibly a bit more open world. But it's done in a very kind of B movie way. Some very atmospheric music, actually, sort of like piano music playing through it, which is quite sort of suspenseful and it just creates a little bit of atmosphere. But yeah, Body Harvest, interesting game that one. If you ever see it around cheap, it's worth a look. It's worth a look. So those are the unboxed games that I've got. Let's move on to the boxed games. Okay, so like I say, I haven't got loads, but I've got some decent ones. They're all in box protectors, so I'm hoping my light doesn't reflect too badly in them. So the first one is Donkey Kong 64. I do have the expansion pack as well. This is a rare game. Not a rare game, it's a rare game. Yeah, really good 3D platformer. Very much along the lines of sort of your Banjo Kazooies as well, where it's part 3D platformer, part collect 'em up. There's a huge amount of collectibles that you go through in this game to pick up. But it's a massive game, huge game. This one probably bigger than Banjo Kazooie. Yeah, interesting one. Interesting direction that they took Donkey Kong in. I suppose they had Donkey Kong Country and then thought let's move him into the sort of 3D realm as well. And in general, yeah, it works. I'll always prefer Banjo Kazooie and Mario 64, but no, Donkey Kong 64 is a worthy addition to an N64 collection as well. Next up, and this was for me one of the sort of big surprises of um, not necessarily that generation, but just it's just a big surprise of actually how good this game was. It's a movie tie-in, but it's a very specific movie tie-in to part of a movie, and it is Star Wars Episode One Racer. So this came at a time when there was loads of different Star Wars games coming out. I think PlayStation was out as well at this point, so it had things like Star Wars Demolition, you had Star Wars Masters of Terrakasi, Star Wars snowboarding. There was just loads of Star Wars games around at that point, and Star Wars Racer was sort of like the next spin-off tie-in type game, especially around the Episode One time as well. Anything they could put Episode One to, they did. But Star Wars Racer actually is a really decent game. Very much a sort of future racer along the lines of Wipeout and F-Zero. But yeah, just a really solid, decent game and a really good surprise. Actually, it was just how good it was. Again, that's one from my original collection. I've had that for since when it first came out, and it's in really good condition. That one. So, but yeah, decent game that one. Star Wars Episode One Racer. There was a sequel, Racer Revenge, which came out on PlayStation 2. That's not bad as well. It's pretty much more of the same. But yeah, that's the original. So still on sort of futuristic racers, one of my favourite games ever, or certainly one of my favourite game series. I think the GameCube version is probably my favourite, but this gives it a good run for its money. It's F-Zero X. I only have the Player's Choice version of this, but beggars can't be choosers these days. But yeah, an amazing game, F-Zero X. Amazing soundtrack to it, proper kind of rock guitar kind of soundtrack to it. Unbelievably quick, unbelievably fast. Possibly not the most detailed of the F-Zero games, if you like. When you sort of you don't stop in the game that often, really, but if you do stop and you sort of look at the actual screen when it's not in motion, there's not a huge amount going on. There's not a lot of detail to it, but when a game's this quick, I suppose it doesn't really matter, does it? But yeah, unbelievable game, brilliant game. Again, use of the sort of analog stick on the controller as well just makes this game, just takes it to another level from the sort of SNES version. So yeah, F-Zero X. Next up, and this is a recent one actually. In fact, this may be the last N64 game or most recent N64 game I picked up, and it is International Superstar Soccer 64. I picked this up in a car boot sale a couple months ago. Well, it was before Christmas, so towards the end of last season's car boot sales. Got it for a fiver. Box isn't in the greatest condition. You see a little bit of tear, not tearing, but label sort of tear there, and a bit of dog-eared sort of sides there. But in general, it's not too bad. It's no instruction booklet, but again, for a fiver, with the box, once you get it in a box protector, they still look pretty cool, don't they? So, but yeah, ISS 64. Yeah, absolutely loved this game back in the day. I remember playing this with mates around the sort of time of World Cup '98 in France. We used to go to the pub, watch the World Cup game, come back, and we'd be back on straight onto this, playing playing against each other on ISS. So yeah, a lot of nostalgic memories for this one. And at the time, yeah, it was just a really amazing game. This is before sort of FIFA really hit the ground. And International Superstar Soccer was the game to have. So yeah, love that game. Um, we'll go on to the obvious one next. So if you have an N64, you will have played this game. No doubt you will have played this game probably. It is a classic, obviously. It is GoldenEye 007. So again, a kind of really revolutionary game for the N64. Redefined the whole, partly redefined the whole sort of first-person shooter genre. I'd say Half-Life had a hand in that as well as some other games. But certainly on consoles, on home consoles, GoldenEye sort of reinvented the first-person shooter. Um, Fantastic game, showing its age a little bit these days. But yeah, everybody remembers playing GoldenEye, playing the death matches, four-player death matches. Yeah, just an absolute classic game. Rare were on just such a roll during this era. I mean, they just were churning out the bangers. And there's a few sort of rare games that I haven't got in this collection, but really do want to sort of pick up if I can at some point. But we'll cover that at the end. But yeah, GoldenEye, amazing game. Still, like I say, still pretty good these days. Possibly showing its age a little bit, but yeah, anyone who's got an N64 really have GoldenEye in their collection. And then next up, so the follow up to GoldenEye from Rare was, of course, Perfect Dark. And yeah, a worthy follow up. Really good game. Again, really good first person shooter. Very similar in sort of setup and style and control system to GoldenEye. But it just sort of threw in a few extra things, sort of sci fi setting, female sort of main character, Joanna Dark. Um, The only the, it's awful though, but the one thing I always remember from this game is that voice of the alien in it, his stupid voice. Is he called Elvis? I want to say Elvis. That's the one thing I always remember from that game for some reason. But no, Perfect Dark is it's a really good game. Surprisingly cheap actually. This is one of the sort of cheaper end N64 games you can pick up. Um, so yeah, if you are looking to start an N64 collection, Perfect Dark is not a bad place to start. And then we are coming to sort of toward the end of my N64 collection. Like I said, I didn't. That's what I said, that I haven't got a huge collection. But I've saved two of my kind of favourites to the end. The first one is WrestleMania 2000. So I am a bit of wrestling fan. I do like watching WWE still. Um, I just can't get into AEW though. I just can't seem to watch it for more than 10 minutes. But anyway, yeah, I was a big fan of wrestling back in the day, and when WrestleMania 2000 came out, obviously we'd had games like WWF Attitude and Warzone, just before these two games, I should say. But these still today, this one, still hold up as really decent wrestling games. The controls were so sort of simple to use and play. It's almost like I don't want to say effortless, but you just enjoy playing it because it's not overly complicated. But it still gives a challenge as well. That sounds a bit backwards, but if you've played it, you probably know what I mean in comparison to sort of like the more modern day wrestling games. So yeah, actually really love this one. Obviously, this came out just maybe not probably in the prime Attitude Era days. We were probably just about coming out of the Attitude Era at this point. But the roster's pretty good. There's some questionable inclusions on it, perhaps. But yeah, WrestleMania 2000. Really love that game. And then the final game, and I might actually boot this one up a little bit and get it going. So the final one, I actually got this one last year from CEX because I'd had WrestleMania 2000 for a while, but always wanted to pick this one up as well. This was the follow up to it, and it is WWF No Mercy. So, No Mercy for me I actually prefer WrestleMania 2000 over No Mercy. I know sort of No Mercy is the one that sort of came out after, and you know, everything about it was supposed to be a little bit bigger and better. I'm gonna put this on. But there was just something missing for me in comparison to WrestleMania 2000. Having said that, this is still an incredible game. Again, massive roster of wrestlers on here. Create a wrestler mode is really good on it as well. The only thing I think that kind of took the shine off it for me was the fact that the wrestler entrances weren't quite as good. So you'd have them coming down the ramp, the music with the Titantron, but then you wouldn't have the kind of entrance into the ring, which WrestleMania 2000 had. So they'd obviously had to sort of cut back some bits of parts of the game to sort of fit more in it. And that was one of the things. And it kind of just took something away from it. I don't know why. For me, it didn't spoil it, but it's just one of those things that I always remember. One of the other things I always remember about this game was when it first was released in the UK as well. I don't know if this was the same all over the world, but when it first came out over here, um, the save function on this game didn't work properly. So if you say created a wrestler or you started like the championship mode, it wouldn't save any of your progress. So yeah, I think eventually they replaced all of the copies. I can't remember how we did it, where we had to post them off or where we took them to the store we got them from. Can't remember, but we did eventually replace them all. But yeah, that's just something else I remember from that game. Yeah, WWF No Mercy. Let's have a quick look at that. Awesome intro sort of movie. This let's get into the game, shall we? So yeah, that's the intro for it. Uh, One thing I haven't got for the N64 is a Rumble Pack. Wouldn't mind picking one of those up. I think they're only cheap, aren't they? Let's have a quick one-on-one match, and we'll got to be The Rock, haven't you? We'll go with Triple H. Unbelievable, really, just how far wrestling games have come in terms of graphics. And yet the gameplay on this game is probably better. You see how the entrances get cut um, before they sort of come down the ramp, whereas in WrestleMania 2000 they come down the ramp and then do some entrance into the ring itself as well. But just a little thing. Will probably be terrible at this game. I've not played it for a while. I think in WrestleMania 2000 as well, on some of the sort of bigger moves, they used to do like an instant replay, which I don't think is in this game either. Ding. Brilliant. You'll have to let me know in the comments if you are a bit of a wrestling fan. Let me know in the comments. Let me know who your favourite of all time is. Mine personally is Kurt Angle. I just think Kurt was the sort of ultimate all rounder entertainer, but also wrestle properly as well. Um, just a hilarious guy as well. In the ring and out of the ring, just got it. Yeah, let me know in the comments who your favourite wrestler was. But yeah, that's WWF. No Mercy. I do keep wanting to say WWE, obviously. I don't think I've slipped there. It is WWF No Mercy. And yeah, it's a bit of a classic N64 game. If we just do a quick finishing move. I remembered how to do it. Problem is, can I remember how to pin? I cannot remember how to pin. So on that note, call it quits there. So that is my entire N64 collection. Like I say, quite a small collection really. I am trying to pick up the odd game here and there. It's just such an expensive console to collect for these days, especially if you want them boxed. But yeah, still on my hit list. I wouldn't mind trying to find a copy of Jet Force Gemini, Banjo Kazooie, because I don't have that either. Um, Possibly some of the sort of more obscure ones as well. I always remember quite enjoying Armorines. I don't know if you've heard of that one. It's a bit like the Body Harvest games, that one. But yeah, I wouldn't mind Armorines. And yeah, there's probably loads of other games as well. The N64, it's such a nostalgia trip, hooking up this machine and playing on it for a little bit. And it doesn't feel the same when you put them on the Switch. So obviously there's N64 games on Switch Online, but it just doesn't work as well with the controller. Um, One big one that I'm still after as well is Lilac Wars. That is the one, big box version of Lilac Wars. That's the game that I really want to try and pick up at some point, and determined to pick it up this year. So keep watching my gaming grabs videos, and at some point you probably will see me finally picking that up. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. That's another episode of my retro journey. Like I said before, there are other episodes of this on my channel page, so please go ahead and check those out. Give them a thumbs up as well. Like I always say, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, it would be very much appreciated if you could drop a subscription. Every subscriber helps. And yeah, I will see you for another episode in probably the next month. I've got a few more episodes of my retro journey to come, and I hope you continue to enjoy them. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.